from the site of its action. And some of the most potent toxins are produced by the microbe, especially the Clostridium toxins, inhibit synaptobrevin and related proteins in the nerve terminal. So, synaptobrevin, synaptotagmin, and many other RAP3, etc. are the proteins which are the docking complex, means they are going to fuse the vesicles with each other and going to release the neurotransmitter. So this process is blocked by the Clostridium toxins and there is no exocytosis of the neurotransmitter. Hence, what happens? There is no action of the acetylcholine and the paralysis occurs. And internalization in turn enables a small subunit to proteolyze synaptobrevin or the other target proteins. The internalization, especially the synaptobrevin, synaptotagmin, and all these are known as the what you call as the docking complex. So docking complex will be inhibited by most of the botulinum toxins, and botulinum toxin A binds to cholinergic motor nerve terminals, giving rise to flaccid paralysis. And the tetanus toxide, it's a very popular disease, tetanus Clostridium tetani. It's released from the Clostridium tetani, which causes the tetanus. It binds to and enters spinal neurons where it blocks glycine release and cause spastic paralysis. This tetanus toxin is nothing to do with the adrenergic nervous system, but it is entering the spinal nerves and binding the glycine residue. Glycine is a inhibitory neurotransmitter. So inhibition of the inhibitory neurotransmitter causes excitation and causes spastic paralysis. So once internalized, the larger functions as a selective zinc dependent protease and hydrolyzes the target protein. The toxin from another thing very interesting is the black widow spider venom. It's also known as alpha latrotoxin. So promotes massive vesicle release, presumably by binding to the neurexins on the neuronal membrane. Usually this black widow spider, the name arrived, especially the black widow spider, it secretes the alpha latrotoxin and promotes the massive vesicular release, especially of the cholinergic neurotransmitter, especially acetylcholine, and it binds to the neurexins on the neuronal membrane. Because of this thing, the acetylcholine is not released and causes the paralysis. So this is a black widow spider. Black widow spider, you can see that this is very common in case of the African forests, and many times if the human beings are there, means it's going to bite, especially the human beings. Then what happens is there is the paralysis because the black widow spider is containing the toxin known as the alpha latrotoxin, and it's going to bind with the neurexin or syntaxin. Then once again the acetylcholine is not released, which is going to cause the paralysis. So here you can see this black widow spider. Why it is the name black widow spider is, it is going to eat or consume the male spider. That's why it is known as the black widow spider. So that's name arrived. So this is containing a very potent toxin known as the alpha latrotoxin. And many times the persons who wander in the forest will have a severe bite of this particular widow spider and get paralyzed. And here also you can see that the black widow spider is biting a human and causes the paralysis of different nature or different degrees depending upon the quantity of the venom and the bite of the particular spider it is going to have, especially even though it's a very small bite, it causes severe, what you call as the reactions and also the paralysis in case of the human beings. And following section, see here there are few terminologies are there. Please learn them. So the following section and degeneration of the motor nerve to skeletal muscles of or the postganglionic fibers to autonomic effector, there is a marked reduction in the threshold doses of the transmitter and certain other drugs required to elicit response. So what happens if you cut the nerves which are supplying to motor nerve and also the skeletal muscles and also the postganglionic fibers to autonomic effectors, the reduction in the threshold to the transmitter, it causes, or else the tissue becomes very sensitive to the released neurotransmitter. This is known as denervation supersensitivity. Already it is told, denervation supersensitivity. Whenever a nerve supplied to a muscle is cut and the muscle become very much responsive to a small quanta of the neurotransmitter, and this is known as the denervation supersensitivity. In skeletal muscle, this damage is accompanied by a spread of the receptor molecules from end plate region to the adjacent portions of the sarcoplasmic membrane, which eventually involves the entire muscle surface. So what happens whenever the nerve is cut, which is supplied to a muscle fiber, then what happens, the receptor molecules from end plate region, they spread to the adjacent portions of the sarcoplasmic membrane, hence make the tissue very, very sensitive. Hence, innervation represses the expression of receptor gene by the nuclei that lie the extra junctional region of the muscle fiber. So the receptors, suppose there are one or two receptors, just imagine, then they will be spread to the adjacent sarcoplasmic membrane and makes the tissue very sensitive to this neurotransmitter, and this is known as the denervation supersensitivity. Now let us deal about the adrenergic neurotransmitter. Here the synthesis, storage and release of the catecholamines occurs, and also the destruction of the catecholamines, as usual in the all other neurotransmitter transmission like cholinergic transmission. Also we have learned the synthesis, how the adrenaline or norepinephrine are synthesized, how they are stored, and what is the mechanism of the release and the initiation of post-junctional activity, then destruction of the neurotransmitter. All these processes are coming in the adrenergic transmission. The norepinephrine is the transmitter of most sympathetic postganglionic fibers and certain tracts in the central nervous system. It's a very well established factor. Norepinephrine is one of the important neurotransmitter in most of the sympathetic postganglionic fibers and also in the central nervous system. Whereas the dopamine is the predominant transmitter in the mammalian extrapyramidal system or brain, and several mesocortical and mesolimbic neuronal pathways, because the norepinephrine is converted to dopa to norepinephrine is formed. So dopamine is one of the important neurotransmitter, especially in the central nervous system. Whereas the epinephrine, the major hormone of the adrenal medulla. See, the three congeners they are known as the catecholamines. Because why the name catecholamine is coming? Because they have got a very specific ring known as the chemical ring known as the catechol. So the norepinephrine, dopamine and epinephrine are the three important catecholamines. The first one, norepinephrine, is a neurotransmitter in the postganglionic fibers and the muscles, etc. And the dopamine, especially, it is working on the central nervous system, whereas the epinephrine is the major hormone of the adrenal medulla. Very simply, you can understand all these things. Yes, this is a very important what you call as the structure, and we can remember this one for the synthesis, then the formation of the epinephrine, whereas the norepinephrine. So here this is a structure of the, what you call as, this is the structure of the tyrosine. Tyrosine, please go step by step. This is a hydroxyl moiety, this is CH2, CH, and amide. So this is side chain is amide. So this is known as the tyrosine, Tyrosine. So this tyrosine is uptaken from the exoplasm into from the surrounding peripheral tissue. So the enzyme here which converts tyrosine to dopa is tyrosine 3 monooxygenase. The enzyme is tyrosine 3. In the place 3, third position, it is called as monooxygenase, means one oxygen moiety will be attached by the help of this tyrosine 3 monooxygenase in the third position of this catechol ring. This entire ring is known as the catechol ring. So they are the catechol amines, especially dopa, dopamine, norepinephrine, all these are the catechol amines. You might have understood why the name catecholamine came. Then the tyrosine is converted to dopa with the help of tyrosine hydroxylase. The other name of tyrosine 3 monooxygenase is tyrosine hydroxylase, and the catalysts are tetrahydroperin. So this is the catalyzing protein. See here, one OH molecule is added and then becomes the dopa. Dopa is going to become dopamine with the help of aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylase. The dopa is going to convert it to dopamine, or it's also known as aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylation process occurs here. See, please see, this is a dopamine, and the change, what happens is, instead of this COOH, it is removed here, and one hydrogen moiety is attached. So the structure is dopa-amine. Dopa, one amine group is added, or H2 molecule is added, and the acid moiety, COOH moiety is removed. So dopa to dopamine. And dopamine is going to converted from dopamine to norepinephrine with the help of the enzyme dopamine beta hydroxylase. Dopamine beta hydroxylase. In the beta position of the dopamine, hydroxylation occurs. So this is alpha and this is beta. Here you can see that one OH group is added to from the dopamine to norepinephrine. So the enzyme which converts norepinephrine to epinephrine is phenylethylamine N-methyl transferase. Here you can see the phenylethylamine N-methyl transferase, especially the amide group is present. Instead of the one H group, one CH3 is on methylation is going to occur here. See, the norepinephrine is methylated to form epinephrine, especially in the adrenal cortex. And once again, to go through tyrosine is converted to dopa, dopa to dopamine, dopamine to norepinephrine, norepinephrine to epinephrine. The enzymes involved are tyrosine 3 hydroxylase or monooxygenase, or it's also known as tyrosine hydroxylase in the second. So here in this group, one OH moiety is added, then dopa to dopamine, aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylase, or the pyridoxal phosphate is the, what you call as, the catalyst here, which makes the enzyme to work faster. And dopamine to norepinephrine is catalyzed by the enzyme dopamine beta hydroxylase, and the ascorbate is the catalyst. And the norepinephrine is converted to epinephrine with the enzyme phenylethylamine N-methyl transferase. So it is very easy to remember if you go through the chemical changes, series of the chemical changes occur. First, the one hydroxylase group is added, then instead of this carboxyl COOH moiety, one hydrogen moiety is added in the beta position. Then this with the help of dopamine beta hydroxylase in this beta position, one hydroxyl moiety is added, and N-methyl transferase, phenylethylamine N-methyl transferase, norepinephrine is converted to epinephrine with the addition of one CH3 molecule. Hope this is very clear to you. And here, so many enzymes are also participating in the synthesis of the catecholamine, varieties of the enzymes. The first enzyme that's going to participate is the tyrosine hydroxylase. Here it is present, tyrosine hydroxylase or tyrosine 3 monooxygenase is the enzyme, and it is going to its occurrence is widespread, and it is present in the most of the sympathetic nerve, and it is present in the cytoplasm especially, or it is also known as the exoplasm, and the cofactor requirement is tetrahydrobiopterin and oxygen and a ferrum moiety, and substrate specificity is very specific for L-tyrosine. So this is going to convert to tyrosine to dopa, and this is a rate limiting step, and inhibition can deplete norepinephrine. Usually, if you inhibit this tyrosine hydroxylase, then there is depletion of norepinephrine. And the second enzyme is aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylase, means here it is present aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylase. Here the decarboxylation occurs, which is this decarboxylation, especially the dopamine to dopa to dopamine, it's going to convert. This carboxyl moiety is removed and hydrogen moiety is added. That's decarboxylase. And widespread sympathetic its presence, and it's also present in the cytoplasm. The pyridoxal phosphate is a cofactor here. Here you can know the pyridoxal phosphate. The pyridoxal phosphate is the cofactor which is going to catalyze this particular amino acid, aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylase. And it's a non-specific in action, and inhibition does not alter the tissue norepinephrine or epinephrine. That's as it is not specific, and it is not going to change anything if you inhibit that particular enzyme. And the third enzyme is dopamine beta hydroxylase. In the beta position, the hydroxylation is going to be caused by this dopamine to norepinephrine is going to be converted, and the widespread, and it is present in the sympathetic nerves, and this it is present in the synaptic vesicles. Please remember that dopamine beta hydroxylase enzyme is present in the synaptic vesicles, and the cofactor requirement is ascorbic acid and oxygen, and which contains the copper. Here you can see that the ascorbate is present, ascorbate is present with that as a cofactor. And once again, the action is very non-specific. It will act on the many type of the dopa to dopamine, and inhibition can decrease to norepinephrine and epinephrine release. Even though it's a non-specific, its inhibition decrease the norepinephrine and epinephrine levels. The another thing is the phenylethylamine. This is the last enzyme which is present in the last step, norepinephrine to epinephrine. This is present in the adrenal gland.